in terms of innovating, we are gathering a lot of data of when and how Russian drones are operating and trying to give some insights to our military units on what exactly they should pay attention. Thank God we have some kind of decentralized startup culture in Ukraine in terms of manufacturing. And so there's a lot of different solutions from different manufacturers that just spark up.
Welcome to another edition of Defense Forward, the podcast that brings you learnings from the war in Ukraine. As always, I'm Jonathan Winch of Cylinder Defense in Copenhagen, Denmark.
And I'm Dan Kucherenko from Serhiy Prytula Charity Foundation in Kyiv, Ukraine.
It is our privilege today to welcome Yehor to the show.
Yehor is the Chief Technical Officer of the 69th Separate Electronic Special Support Center of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
I met Yehor recently in Kyiv, where he gave a fascinating briefing on the past, the present, and the likely future of electronic warfare from a Ukrainian perspective. And I asked you back then if you'd come on the show to share your knowledge with us. So you agreed to that, and there's parts of that briefing, of course, that can't be openly shared, but we'll leave that to you to filter out.
Okay.
What can you tell us about the role of your unit in the Ukrainian Armed Forces EW ecosystem?
Okay, so we are kind of center that tries to make the EW as a service. So we are trying to provide for all EW units the required knowledge. Like we are making some POCs, we are investigating the Russian trophies. We're also making some softwares for them as well. So whatever, it's something that is imported for us in this area from abroad, from our partners. We also try to test it, give our partners the feedback on what can be improved and what exactly, how to make these units, these jammers, these direction finders to perform well in the real war. So all this kind of coordination. Also, we are providing the trainings for Ukrainian troops for all those kind of equipment. And not to forget to mention that, first of all, we are kind of field unit. All this R&D, all this complicated stuff, it's on their part. We're also managing the large network of the equipment that does the job on the front line.
So just to understand structurally, how do you fit within the overall Ukrainian Armed Forces? Are there similar units to yours? Do you have a role across all of the units, or how does it work?
So I would say that in the EW domain, there are only a couple of similar units, and we are trying to work with all the EW units across the whole defense forces that we have. It's not only the army, but the National Guard, and with the kind of border patrols, with the whoever is involved in in Ukraine defense. So we are trying to provide the assistance to all of these units.
It's a pretty broad range of things you're doing. So you're a system builder, an integrator. How would you describe?
That's a lot of stuff that we are doing, I would say. So yeah, we are trying to think. If you have a look on it on how the system works, so we are trying to see across all military units, see the best practices they are currently having in terms of applying some equipment, in terms of software solutions that they might have, in terms of tactics. And our work is actually to scale it to the units that don't have their own R&Ds. They don't have that much experience. So kind of gathering all best practices and scaling it to all defense forces that we kind of have. Not only that, so we are development as well. So we're trying to innovate, and whatever it works, we're trying to scale it as well.
So just on the innovation side there, at what level are you innovating? What kind of skills do you have on board?
That's a lot of different. So we making some hardwares. We are trying out new things. We are trying to investigate. So we're getting the trophies and trying to investigate which tactics of jamming and countering this threat is most effective. And also the software part as well. And another part of our work is actually the technical support, I would say so. So when we're trying to kind of assist all units in how to use all this equipment that we currently have, and analytics. So we're, in terms of innovating, we are gathering a lot of data of where, when, and how Russian drones, and not only drones, are operating, and trying to give some insights based on this data to our military units on what exactly they should to pay attention.
It sounds very important, but a bit broad. Can you walk us through the process of cooperating with one of mechanical or any brigade of armed forces that you work with?
Okay, so me personally, we had to reschedule our session just because I was departed on the east. That's actually the part of the job. So we're went through all EW units, and they're using our softwares as well. So I'm gathering the feedback on the software that they're using, what exactly they're missing, what might be improved, what their tactical needs to cover software-wise, and not only the software-wise. So I checked up with them. They also have some POCs, which I think and they think that should be scaled to other units. So we are trying to improve its software, like software-wise, and also whenever they have like new threats, I can give you an example, like the mesh networks of the UAVs that we currently do have. So we're gathering the trophies. We are trying to understand how exactly we should to jam them, to maybe to counter this threat in any other ways, and we're giving them some sort of small solutions, and they trying to test it on the field and see if it works, if it not, giving us feedback, and we are proving it constantly. So, and also we're
Sorry,
actually,
can I shortly reassure, what kind of software are we talking right now? Does your unit produce and write the software itself and then deliver it to the units?
Yeah, we do. So
Wow.
I guess one of the largest, at least, apps that we do have in the armed forces, the Graphite, which has the like live view of UAV hazards in your area. It's the completely our development, and there's a lot of other more specialized stuff for the EW units to coordinate and actually do their job day to day.
This might also be a good time to just get you to outline the role of EW as you see it in the battle space today. You know, what's its function now, and where do you see it being most effective?
I would say that this function is kind of critical. So everybody understand that this is the war of drones, and to actually to protect yourself from drones, there's only two possible ways. You either have the interceptors, or so it's like kinetical appliance for these targets, or you try to jam it, and you cannot intercept the small targets, whatever, and the like FPVs in most cases, and that means that the almost only protection from FPV it's or the shotgun, like the last line of defense, or it's EW. I guess the main force to protect our units from the FPVs, it relies on the EW right now. So it's pretty important. Not much of the talk about that, because everybody likes the fine pictures of the Russian techniques burns whenever you hit them with the UAV, but you don't have the video of the survived soldier who've been protected by EW. So it's not that fancy as the UAV units right now, but it still is as much as important.
Invisible war.
Very much is, yeah. So, and within that, what do you see as, I do recall, going back to the Kiev presentation you gave us a development over time of EW in the Ukrainian context. I wonder if you could run through that, just timeline that a bit, and tell us where things were, where they are now, where you're seeing them going.
Yeah, I guess I can give you a brief history actually on how we started. So in 2022, the usage of commercial drones were kind of widespread, of the DJIs, hotels, and they were not kind of firmware updated, just the regular that you get from the store. And for example, the DJI gives you the tool to monitor the airspace around you in terms of the DJI drones. It's called Aeroscope. So whenever you have one, you can see all UAVs around you, and also the ground station and the point of launching. And so some of the units from the very beginning had this kind of equipment, but the problem is that you have like big radius of surveillance, but still you the only one who has this data, who has the understanding of the hazards that you have around you. And some small initiative group tried to solve this problem and actually make the single kind of interface where all these stations would be united in one system, and whoever has the access to the system will see the data from all of them. That was the kind of very beginning, and the concept actually worked. So more and more units start to connect their equipment to the system to increase the coverage. And during the time, the area of not firmware modified drones ended quickly, because whoever used this drone in this kind of way kind of end up quickly as well. So there started to be more advanced war in these terms. So there started the custom firmwares and all that stuff. So you need a bit more complicated equipment to actually to locate the source of the signal. And it started to develop, and we were kind of aggregator that collects all this data and process it and gives you the position of potential danger for you. Yeah, and that's how this approach kind of showed his efficiency. And actually, that was the start of our center, how it's been founded, based, and so that was our really first thing that we've done. And based on that, we only start to grow, to cover more and more and more. And after it's not only the surveillance right now, it also the jammers, the radars, the acoustic sensors, whatever helps you to find the target. We are gathering the data, processing it, and giving actually you the information on how to work. And in terms of the automation, so the very first beginning point, if we were talking about the classic work that being priority, you have the direction finder, number one, you have the operator, which works with that. You have direction finder number two, which works with that as well. They can give you the bearings, like the directions towards the targets. You can intersect them, and it will give you the location of the drone. And then you need the third man, which sits on the jammer, who will start to jam on these particular characteristics on this particular target. So for one drone, you actually needed the work of 3 men, at the same time, coordinated work of 3 men to eliminate this target. And we're working on optimizing these processes. So we are collecting bearings in automated way. We're finding the targets in automatic way. Sometimes we can jam in automated way. So that's the kind of half automated work right now. So that's what we achieved. We are giving information what, where, and how to suppress it, and the operators can just press the button actually to kind of jam this target. It's not always like that, so there are still gaps for us to close to automate this works. In some places, it's not possible to be fully automated, but that's where we stand, and actually right now, and actually we're moving forward to kind of improve it. So for now, you only need like 10 people, which can work with like 20, 30 targets at the same time. And and still, unfortunately, it's not enough. You need to understand that the battlefield is so intensive that on the area of responsibility of one single military unit, which would say like 80, 100 kilometers of the front line, you might have like up to 500, 600 targets per day, which is insane. And it's not possible we have equipment to jam it, but the human being cannot process this intensive work all the time. So we're trying to automate it and actually to achieve the targets when the human role would be like the technical support of all this system, which should work in autonomous way, and
Right.
maybe to kind of make the final decisions on the
And then
elimination.
also the setup, physical setup and moving
Yes.
and bits and pieces like that.
Yeah, because you still need some field work to provide the internet for the device which is on the front line, to provide the electricity. Sometimes the generators, you need to refill them, all that service work around the infrastructure.
Yeah, that sounds like the largest bottleneck for your team right now. And in terms of the Russian technology, what is the biggest threat right now?
I would say that in most cases, we're coping with the FPVs efficiently. There are still some FPVs that reach in the targets, the enemy FPVs that reach in the targets, and it's caused by this such intensive work of the FPVs that we have right now. So we are not able to process the targets that fast. But there are still the threats from Russians that we that are not addressed, I would say so, and we are not so efficient against them at this point. There's still the problem of gliding bombs. We're also trying to get a widget. We are making a lot of efforts to make the GNSS spoofing efficient, so they will not reach the target. Russia is very good with their CRP antennas, which is kind of effective against the GNSS suppression.
Can you just explain since we've mentioned CRP antennas, could you explain for the audience what those are, what their function is?
Okay, I'll try to do it in the simple words.
Triangulation.
Whenever you have your exact location on your phone as well, so it's calculated by the satellites. So you receive the information from several satellites that's saying that they're in this point at this moment of time. You're receiving these signals asynchronously, and by understanding their location and difference of time of when the signal arrives to you, you can calculate where you exactly. And the GNSS spoofing or jamming, whatever, is trying to affect your receiver, which gives you like fake satellites, which gives you the fake coordinates and all this stuff. And actually, many of Ukrainians might notice that whenever there's a air alarm, the navigation doesn't work, and they're just teleporting somewhere outside, somewhere to the west coast of the USA or whatever. And but the CRP antenna is the antenna that has a lot of kind of the antennas which receive the signal from the satellites. There are a lot of them, and they're pointed into different directions at the same time. So whenever you're trying to affect this antenna from one direction, it uses the other ones that are shielded from this signal. And the more elements this antenna do have, there's also the complicated mathematics underneath how it calculates its location and filters off the spoofing and all this stuff, which I will not dive in. But still, the more elements this antenna have, the more suppressors from the different directions need to affect this antenna at the same time to make sure that it will not reach its satellites and will not understand its position. So, and it's been developed. So for now, on the start of the war, they used like 4 elements CRP antennas. Then it was we managed to suppress them. Then it was 8. We managed to suppress them. Then now it's 16, and even sometimes it's 32 elements.
Wow. Okay, I haven't heard 32. That's
Wow.
That's quite a leap.
Yeah, and it's I guess it's 32 or 24, but actually that doesn't not that important, because it's insane. It's an insane amount of work you need to do to suppress this particular hazard, and yeah, that's why I guess you need really a lot of devices, of EW devices, on the front line to affect the gliding bombs, which we started this topic on, to actually guide it from its initial target. And still, you're not stopping the bomb. It will fall somewhere, and it will still harm or armed forces or civilians in those cases. So it's still a problem. It might not reach the target, but still cause some damage. And there's the good solution only for that is known. It's like good air-to-air rockets for the fighting jets, which we still don't have. So we're still suffering with this kind of problem. Another problem that is still poorly addressed is the fiber optic drones. They are kind of resistant to EW by understandable reasons. And also, it doesn't emit anything into the surroundings, so it's hard to locate them. We're doing a lot of work with the small radars, with the acoustic sensors, but still it's I would not say that we have the great solution to find them and actually to eliminate those kind of drones.
But that's a task that's within your group's mandate as well, is to work with.
I would say that it's kind of blank space right now because you can't understand who exactly should manage it. It's doesn't look like the EW area of responsibility because you won't affect it with the EW, and there's still no other kind of task force that's whose responsibility is this particular threat. So everybody tries to make their own at least small solutions to see what exactly is effective.
Yeah, that's
And
not necessarily a bad approach either, right? You get a lot of different. You don't get groupthink. You get a lot of different ways of approaching it.
yeah, I guess so. But still, we're searching for a good solution. And another threat that's kind of growing right now is the
Digital.
mesh network on the UAVs. It's really hard to suppress it, and it's possible, but it's complicated to do so. We are only learning on the learning path right now on how to work with it, and it's the problem because especially near the front line, it kind of turns the Shaheds on the huge FPV with the 40 kilogram of warhead. And that's the problem because they can't see what in the real time they can see what the Shahed sees, and they can direct even on the moving targets, which kind of pain for us.
Yeah. So when I hear that, I'm thinking that you're working to come up with solutions for these fast evolving and quite high tech threats, and at the same time, doing so requires getting a lot more up to date equipment into the field. I imagine that you're stretching your current assets from things that are very up to date and things that have been there for quite some time, EW assets. How do you manage to try and close that gap of requiring technologies that can address new threats like this, like mesh?
We are working with the manufacturers. We are consulting them and also trying to field test. We are helping with the field testing of their solutions. Thank God we have some kind of decentralized the startup culture in Ukraine in terms of manufacturing everything around the war area. And so there's a lot of different solutions from different manufacturers that just spark up, and we see whatever works, whatever doesn't, and we're giving some recommendations to the Ministry of Defense and whoever is responsible for the procurement to actually deliver the equipment to the military units on what actually works and what doesn't, and the best. It's not only the one single device, so we can give them the scenario that this particular direction finder or this particular radar might work well in cooperating with this device from the other manufacturer, so you can plan the defense line like strategically, not only tactically. When you have whatever equipment you do have right now, you're trying to use it.
Can I ask one more about one more threat of modern technology and how Russian use them? What can you say about digital communication in drones? Is it really such difficult to spoof or to jam?
The main problem not with jamming, I would say. So currently what we have right now, there are three types of communications that we have. We already talked about the mesh. which they're trying to apply for more and more and more UAVs. So it's not on Shaheds right now, on Geran, on Molnia. So they're using it more widespreadly, but it's kind of new thing. They had the digital communication on the larger UAVs and more expensive UAVs, and because there are a lot of reasons for that, but still, but we're kind of the primary scenario for countering this kind of drones is actually the interceptors. It's not efficient to waste the EW time. The EW, in most cases, it's focused on the FPVs. And if we are talking about the FPVs, they have the analog video, and they're still using it because whenever you have the digital signal and you start to lose the packets, the connection between the ground station and drone start to lose its quality, you won't see anything. So if you have the analog video, even if the connection is poor, you still can see something which drone does see. And the main process that we do have right now, that we actually catching this analog video, we see with the eyes of the drone, and we understand where exactly it locates. And if the digital solutions in these cases will be improved, we will stop and allocate the enemy drones because of that, because it will be encrypted, and that means this problem for us. But in terms of jamming, I would not say that it's such a big deal to jam one signal or another. It will be a problem for our surveillance to understand where exactly the drone.
So what kind of sensing technologies are going to become more important? For example, as digital becomes a thing, for example, what other sensing technologies are going to be important? Radar, optical?
The direction finder. So currently, the most used approach to locate the FPV is one that I told you, actually, to intercept the video, to see see the image from it, and by just kind of understanding the landmark to locate the drone. We will lose this option whenever it will come to the digital video stream, but still it's in a radio emission for this drone, and you can use the classic direction finders, which points you to the direction of this emitter and trying to triangulate it and locate it on the ground. And maybe I still don't know how. There is a lot of work with the smaller radars, which done in the scope of actually positioning the drones, the FPVs, on the fiber optic connection. And the same solution will be applicable here as well. So it still will be the drone with the same signal deflection characteristics. So it's kind of the same for radar.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, you mentioned field testing is something that you are involved in doing. And I happen to know that one of your favorite topics is talking about the claims made by various foreign suppliers that their equipment is proven in Ukraine or something along those lines. So what's your insight here?
I would say we're working with the foreign manufacturers a lot, and I would divide them in kind of three categories. I would start with from worst to best case scenario. The worst case scenario is actually they may cross with their equipment. They may cross the border with Ukraine on somewhere in Zakarpattia, like 1,000 kilometers away from war. Just turn it on there once and just bring it back with some label Ukraine tested, which is kind of annoying. Don't be like that. And The other ones is actually who brings their equipment and gives us for testing, for field testing, for the kind of units on the front line, and we're giving the feedback that this or that is not working, this or that need to be modified, improved, and we are giving them a lot of data on how exactly it should work to perform well on the battlefield. But they still kind of not really motivated to do so, because they already brought some kind of number of equipment to Ukraine. They placed the marketing somewhere there on their site or whatever, and like they're Ukraine battle proofed, and they have the requests from a lot of requests from other countries. They have the contracts, and they're not really interested in the improving quality wise in this case, which is a pity, but still it's a business. They are doing money, and okay, whatever fits for them.
Yeah, they continue the NATO way of doing things. Yeah.
And the best case scenario is actually to have whenever you bring in your equipment to Ukraine, it would be preferred to have the separate team, which is targeted to work with us. We're really open to work. We're giving constant feedback. We're giving some advices on what and how should be improved, software likes, hardware like, whatever. And who does have this willing actually to improve. We're doing like a lot of work with them for last few years, and the product that they initially brought in Ukraine and the one that they do have right now, it's the huge difference between those devices. And I would say that they have a bright future for that. So I don't understand some companies that have the finances. They are rich companies, Western companies. They have a lot of money, and they have us who is testing this for you in real battle. You won't have this opportunity twice. I would say so. And so this is the golden time for them to actually make sure that their stuff works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yehor, if we talking about testing the Western technology, how could these companies or potential engineers to reach out to your unit, for example, and ask for cooperation? What is the perfect channel for you?
We have some contact points for that. I guess we can place it somewhere in the
show notes
description. Yeah, and
Perfect.
Whoever wants, we are really open for collaboration.
Okay, perfect. Great to hear that. And I wondering in terms of EW, do you feel like we have an edge on Russian aggressor that they are keeping up with us, and we always a few steps ahead?
The EW has really wide range of stuff beneath it. So there's the direction finders, there's the communications, there is the jammers, and so on, the antennas, the
pilot location,
yeah,
like that. Yeah. Another perspective I'd like to dig into a little more deeply is, you have an IT background. First, just tell us a little bit about what your IT background is, and then what's your viewpoint on the role played by IT in a modern army? And of course, none being more modern than the Ukrainian Armed Forces, of course.
I would say starting from my background, actually, I've been a software developer for a long time. Then I grew up as a delivery manager in large outsource IT company of Ukraine. And then when I joined military, actually start this path from the beginning, start to develop some stuff actively, and then as our team grows, I just took the lead on some processes. And actually, Ukraine before the war, I guess the IT was the main way for young people to earn money. That's why we had a lot of really really well developed IT sector in Ukraine before the war and before the full scale invasion. And whenever the war started, a lot of these people joined the military. And whenever you're an IT guy and you see some dumb manual work, you just you can cope with that. You start to automate some processes, and it was like explosive development and growth of the different sub IT products which solved different problems, sometimes the same problem. And it's actually, I guess that's in my personal opinion, the number of IT guys who joined the military on the start of the full scale invasion. It's the one of the reason that we actually still standing. There's a lot of solutions that really helped us to have this so-called asymmetric answer to the threats that we are currently do have. And as I would say, what differs from the IT's perspective that we do have here, the funny thing is that whenever you have the civil company, you're a manager of the civil project, you kind of have these KPIs on what is margin should be on your the revenue on your project, the financial KPIs and all that stuff. Here you can actually invite whoever is more professional. They're all on the same salary, on the poor one. And yeah, that's the good news. But the bad news is actually, in eyes of our army leadership, there's maybe in a lot of cases there's much urgent places to attend, and the filling those kind of units with people was never the priority. So it's pretty complicated whenever you have the really talented guys to bring in from the front line to actually to us to do some automation work and the IT. But we actually, if talking about the IT in Ukrainian army, I think we have the better life than many guys on the front line do have. So we have the possibilities to live at home. Sometimes we have the weekends even, but it's got a lot of mental pressure, I would say so. So especially in our domain, so you're trying to find this balance between delivering new features faster, which means that you would be able to bring new tools to the guys to defend themselves, to work against those threats. But by developing faster, you mean that you still need to consider the security issues. So that's a lot of sensitive data you're working with, and you need to consider it. Our software products been attacked like numerous times, and so you need to work with that. And another part is whenever you're introducing some sort of bugs, the costs might be really so. really painful. So there been so on the other side, on the one side, you have the situation when you're delivering some features and guys send you the messages like, "Thank you, guys, you rescued 10 of my people from my platoon today," or you have these messages like every day, and sometimes you might have the bug in your code when people was not notified that the kind of gliding bomb was heading towards their direction, and actually some people been killed. And you understand that this kind of your responsibility, that they might be notified if you don't have this issue in your code. So the pressure that you have all the time is kind of enormous. And that's what we
There's
are
a lot of
dealing with.
responsibility that goes with it. Yeah. Right. Dan?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm impressed. I also aware about the unit of Hartia, which also produce some software for early notification of Russian assaults, and that's also another example of how software development can help Ukrainian armed forces to fight in asymmetric way. And also our former Ministry of Defense constantly saying that we have to fight asymmetrically because we don't have manpower, right? Your biggest problem right now, Yehor, is the shortage of people that you can you can draft it to your unit.
Yes. I would say that like I'm responsible for the product roadmap on the solutions that we have right now, and the this setup of people that I do have at this particular moment. I have the roadmap like for a couple of years ahead. So that's a lot of stuff that should be done. And
when you automate 100% of EW projects, what would be next?
It won't happen, unfortunately. So it's kind of spear and shields running all the
Cat and
time.
mouse, yeah.
So you need to cope with new threats. But yeah, if we at least will do that part of work, it will be, I would say, the biggest dream that we have right now. But it's I don't think that's kind of fully achievable, but we can do a lot. We already done a lot. We already improved the processes on many areas, but there's still so much to do that I really personally hope that war will end sooner than we will catch up with all this roadmap that I have on the list.
Amen. One of the things that you have, of course, is you're necessarily using equipment from a lot of different manufacturers, a lot of different EW assets, and they all have or have had their own API. So integration being a bottleneck, how are you coping with that, and how's progress on integrating the equipment from all the different manufacturers?
Yeah, that's the problem that we have right now. So it's in comparison with Russia. The problem, it's not only the war of kind of dictatorship and democracy. We have the war of the mindset as well. So whatever is developing in Russia, it's just a lot of effort to make like perfect solution and then scale it as wide as possible. But it's kind of centralized. You do have one tool to work with that stuff that's been developed, and this similarity across the all elements is really high. But in Ukraine, it's a bit different. We have the startup culture, this sort of kind of contesting between the companies that are developing a similar solution. And that means in good way, it ends up that whatever threat is new, we have really a lot of different solutions that they have their strong and weak points. And at some point of time, some of this solution might help us, which was not so helpful like yesterday. So we're really adaptive and fast. But it also means that in ownership of this single unit, you might have like equipment from 5, 6, 10 different manufacturers, and they have their separate softwares, separate approaches, and whatever you are operator, they need to work with all this information. You have like 10 windows with the software of each particular manufacturer, and they are not linked with each other in the way it should be. And it's kind of work that we are trying to do. So to give the single source of truth, the single tool which connects everything that might be in your disposal to work in the EW domain. And while doing so we started to connect into our system one manufacturer by another, but they are so different. They have their own APIs. They have their own unique abilities and all that stuff that the small group of people that I have in my disposal is actually we're not catching up with the manufacturers. That each of them have their IT department, which is similar of the size of my and
Right.
me.
Yeah.
But we need to cope with like tens of software, the hardware developers and manufacturers, and they are just only coping with their single product. And that's where we started to. We're just like in the place stop. We need to think how to approach it in more efficient way, and we actually delegated this part of work. So we took the protocol, the NATO standardized protocol for EW. We added the support on our side of this protocol, and we actually delegated this part of work on the manufacturer. So whenever you are trying to produce in Ukraine in this domain, you need to support this single kind of government certified protocol of connection to the single system. You still might have your own interface, you still might have your own features, but you should have this API. And for us, it means that for the centralized system, it's just the plug and play. So whenever device you receive, you're connecting it to the system and it appears automatically and you can work with that.
Was the protocol you're talking about there, is that Sapient or?
Yeah, that's the BCI Flex Sapient. It's the British one. So we're also communicating with the authors of this protocol. They're from guys from Great Britain. We are suggesting new stuff because the war develops faster than the Britons making changes.
It's like Delta.
Yeah, so that's where we are, and we are kind of. I think we have the progress with at least Ukrainian manufacturers. The foreign manufacturers are also interested. So we kind of proposed this deal. So obviously, this is an additional work for manufacturer to support this protocol. But we are trying to kind of motivate them in the way that first thing, it's the NATO supported protocol, and it means whenever the equipment export would be allowed, you would be able to sell it to the Western countries, to the NATO countries, and it will be compatible with their C2 systems, which is kind of good selling point for you. We're also proposing to these manufacturers the field testing and feedback loop that I already told you about, and also as the treat we're capable, and we're proposing the kind of preparation, the training for our troops on how to work with your particular equipment, so we can teach EW warriors on how exactly to operate this particular stuff. And it's kind of sounds sweet for them. So we're trying to have the like soft power on them to actually to connect to the single system that we do have right now.
So leading with the carrot, not the stick. Yeah.
I would not say that sometimes stick is not so unnecessary, but in most times it's carrot.
So can you just tell us about some of the key challenges that brigades, for example, are facing with EW today? I've heard complaints about EW's impact on their other operations, obviously, because they're trying to launch drones, they're trying to assault, and then you're kind of dominating the skies at times. How does that sort of friendly fire side of things work out?
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of issue of the coordination side of view. So I will give you the example. So the Shaheds on the mesh network, they are working on the diapason like from 3.3 to 4.5 gigahertz. And we're aiming to suppress them. But unfortunately, some of our radars in our disposal are working on the similar frequencies. And it means that we are disrupting the work of the radar, and by jamming this drone, we are disrupting the work of the interceptors as a result. So we need to coordinate in this area with them to actually to make sure that blocking each other's work. The similar thing that the ones that I already told you about the GNSS spoofing. So the gliding bombs are bombing the front line almost constantly, and that means that you need to have this GNSS suppression and spoofing turned on all the time. But our UAVs are requiring it sometimes, most times I would say so. And that means that you need to find the balance. You either have your UAV units operational, or you trying to protect yourself from the gliding bombs or all these type of threats. And this requires the large piece of coordination as well. So these kind of pain points that we're working closely with the other softwares in military. So we're working closely with Delta and to kind of coordinate the work between the UAV units and between the EW units. And we are trying to make the software solutions for that problem as well.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at my notes here.
While you looking at your notes, what does the perfect dream of your unit looks like? Is it like, as you mentioned before, the almost fully automated EW, but what also can be there some remotely rotated devices, kill switches to avoid equipment capture, airborne jamming, something else?
A lot of stuff that you mentioned actually is already a thing. So I would not call it a dream. I would call it the target, the aim. So the most valuable thing in the Ukrainian army is people. So whenever you have the ability to orchestrate all this infrastructure as remotely as possible, and it will still work, and it will still work in autonomous way, so you would be able to cope with this intensity that we do have right now. That's the kind of the main goal, to eliminate whatever tries to hit any Ukrainian soldier.
So that would also mean anyone close to the EW asset. So, for example, thermal masking,
UGV
ammunition.
delivery.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last one.
UGV delivery.
UGV, yeah. It's more. I would not say that it's particularly our area that we are working with right now, but we're mostly on the protection side of fence, and yeah, whoever is related to the work near the front line should have the protection from us. And as I would see it, in the best option is actually for the brigades, for any military unit to have ability not to think about this particular part of the work. So they might work with the troops assaults, the defense, with to war with tanks and all that stuff, and they will be just closed with this umbrella of the EW service that they don't need to think about. So, as I already told you, the the big problem is with the coordination, is the sweet spots whenever. So obviously you want to place your equipment as high as possible, so it will have the good line of sight. And such sweet spots on the front line is not really common. And it means whenever you have this kind of spot, you have like dozens of equipment over there, which intercepts and which kind of blocks the work of each other even sometimes. And it means, and actually it's in possession of different military units, so it's hard to coordinate who and where and why it should be placed. So whenever you have this central place of planning of the making this few layered level of defense, as and whenever you have this single service which is responsible for all this through the entire front line, those kind of miscommunications and interruptions might be avoided. So, as my personal opinion, I would rather have this EW as a service completely for all units, and it would be not the pain that they should think about.
Yeah, no, that would be a very good situation to arrive at. That's for sure. Okay, just looking through what we've got here, because time means that we need to sort of ask some closing question and move on. What I think of this personally is this has been exactly the kind of thing that I want on the podcast. A very good insights into an important area. What skills do you think that at this point Ukraine might be lacking in the EW space, and what types of companies or expert teams do you wish you had more interaction with from outside of Ukraine's borders?
From my perspective, it's not the complicated thing to make a jammer. So it's a pretty relatively simple device, which we are capable to manufacture in Ukraine in pretty good quality. But if you will visit any sort of exhibition or any sort of forum related to the Miltech, you will see like 90% of it related to any of unmanned, if it's UAG or UAV or whatever. And like 9% of it is jammers, that the solution that can jam the threat, and like 1% of actually finding the target. So the equipment with to allocate the signal, the direction finders, the radars, it's pretty complicated stuff, which is not so easy to manufacture. And actually, we do have the expertise on how it should work on the software side of things, on how to work with the data, but hardware wise, we don't have really. I can mention only couple of local manufacturers of the good direction finder in Ukraine, and I can give you like dozens of the manufacturers of the jammers. So it's the complicated work which requires a lot of effort, lots of financially, a lot of finance, and actually it requires pretty complicated manufacture units. So you need the technologies to make good antennas, the quality antennas, the good SDRs, and all that stuff. So, my personal opinion, this type of hardware is available in Europe. There is a lot of companies that been doing it already for like 30, 40, 50 years, and they have good expertise in it. And just collaborating with us, that we can make the software, we can give you the expertise, the testing, and actually to combine all itself together. I can give you the example. So the benefits that we do have in Ukraine. So we have the large databases on the enemy's UAV signals, which guys in Europe mostly don't have. And we have the abilities to understand by the signal what type of UAV and what type of threat it is. And on the other hand, we have quite few Western manufacturers that have the perfect hardware solution, which gives you the pinch perfect bearing on the targets, which gives you a lot of information on the signal, but don't understand what kind of signal it is, and you need to really skilled operator to work with this equipment. To fuse all this stuff together is the kind of things that we are aiming. So yeah, this kind of complicated hardware like solutions from the West is the thing that we require.
We hope that some of our audience of European manufacturers are listening in on this and can contact you, see if they can help out with that requirement.
They have pretty solid insights.
Yeah. Yehor, thanks for coming on the show. Electronic warfare is a fascinating topic, one of my favorite topics, and you only, and to some degree, made us more curious, I think, with everything you shared today. And I've also marked my calendar for September 12th to make sure I don't forget to celebrate the Day of Electronic Warfare Specialists in Ukraine. I'll be in Kyiv at that point. Perhaps we'll see each other at that.
Yeah, it's actually
Lviv.
kind of new celebration. The new type of, I would say, the new type of holiday in Ukraine. Actually, there was not such a thing as the Day of the EW forces even a few years ago, which kind of, the appearance of such a day actually shows the importance of EW.
It does indeed.
The importance and evolving. And to our audience, thanks for tuning in. And if its episode resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.
And if you're wondering how best to contribute to Ukraine, you want to be sure that none of your donation is spent on administrational salaries, Serhiy Putula Foundation is gold standard for supporting Ukraine with donations to meet urgent requests from defenders and civilian organizations. And that's why Cylinder Defense selected the foundation as our preferred partner.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. I think we did that nicely there. Hey, I got a question for you. We're just thinking about going forward. If there were optical sensing, very ultra high optical sensing, is that something that could be useful for identifying drones that are incoming? Do Do you see that as a possibility?
We do have similar solutions in Ukraine right now, but they are almost looking towards the sky because
Yeah.
it's easier to spot the UAV in the sky and understand where it exactly. And we do have the solutions which works with it, but in the sky, it's usually the larger objects which we're capable to work with the radars as well. But if we're talking about the fiber optic drones, you need to the camera which will look downside, downwards, which because the FPV runs on the really low altitude, and to spot this UAV among the trees, leaves, the grass, and all that stuff, it's really complicated thing to do, and actually it will give you a lot of false positives because any kind of bird, any kind of jumping creature, whatever it is, will give you the false alarm on that. But I still think that there is work in this direction right now, but still no good solution yet. So I'm
Because
sure that it will appear sooner or later, but
I'm
it's
sure it will. I was just with a company the other day. That's a startup, not a Ukrainian startup, where they have 12-bit camera. So that is capable of enormous. That's about 100 times more than what we have of resolution today. So they can take an enormous landscape at very, very high resolution, but they don't have to. Then they process it at the edge. They process it on the drone, and so if you were trying to locate a certain thing, you were trying to locate enemy warfighters, then all that processing is done at super high resolution within the drone. And then what you get delivered back is tiny packets that just go to your C2 that are exactly the information you were looking for. Right? That was pretty interesting because 12-bit is crazy resolution. And that's the technology you need.
Yeah, but you need to keep in mind that solution should be not only effective one, but also the cheap one.
Yes. Yes.
And
10,000 euros for a camera like that, camera system like that.
Good luck.
So that's the high-end ISR drones for that. But yeah, that is an issue. Yeah.
So it's not the problem to make a good solution for all the money in the world, but it's the problem to make the scalable solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, this was a really good episode. I super enjoyed this, and you did a great job of it.
Thanks, Yehor, for attending. And I hope you will receive a lot of requests through the channel that we leave under the video for encountering your unit for probable cooperation.
Thank you for the invitation.